Dear students, hope you are safe and healthy. My name is Mudassar Abbas and I am lecturer at Institute of Business Studies, kpart University of Science and Technology. My area of specialization is human resource management. This subject is about principles of management with a course code of BS 121. In today's lesson, we're gonna study about foundation of planning. Okay, before going into the detail of the lesson, let me share with you two reference books that you can use as a reference. These books are easily available in the market and you can also download them from internet for free. The first book is Principles of Management and its application. That is written by Ricky W. Griffin. You can download any edition of this. We have 10th edition and onward. The second book is Management by Stephen P. Robbins and Mary Coulter. So you can download any of this book and make it as a reference book. Both books are very readers friendly. So students, in continuation to our previous lecture regarding goals and objectives and what kind of plans managers carry out in order to achieve their goals, today we are going to study approaches to goals establishment. Basically, there are two different type of approaches. Number one is traditional goal setting and number two is contemporary goal setting. Now first we will discuss about traditional goal setting. What is traditional goal setting? Traditional goal setting is defined as the process whereby goals are set at the top of the organization and then broken down into sub-goals for each level of the organization. This traditional goal setting process, it assumes that the top manager knows what is best because of his ability to see the bigger picture. While on the other hand, employees are to work to meet the goals of their particular area of responsibility. So in this kind of goal setting approach, the top management, which comprises of, for example, Chief Executive Officer, CEO, COO, Chief Operating Officer, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Chairman, President, Executive Vice President, Senior Executive Vice President, Senior Vice President, etc. They all sit together and decide the goals of the organization, and then these goals are broken down into sub goals to create a network of means and change. But these sub goals constrain the behavior of the subordinates. Now you people can ask why it constrains the behavior of the subordinates. This is simply because of the reason that goals lose clarity and focus at the lower level of the organization when the managers attempt to interpret or define the goals in their own area of responsibility. Okay, now in this slide we're gonna see how a goal that is decided at the top management of the organization is transformed or interpreted when it is communicated in the lower hierarchy of the organization. The goal that is set by the top management is, for example, we need to improve the company performance. So you can see that the top management main focus on the performance of the company. But when this same goal is communicated at the divisional level, the division manager interprets it as, I want to see significant improvement in this division's profit. So the overall company's goal is subdivided into division level goals where the main focus is on profit. When this same goal is communicated at departmental level, the department manager interprets it as increase profit regardless of the means. So this means that the top management goal, when was communicated to the departmental level, it loses some ethical standards. Here you can easily see that the department manager do not care about the ways of increasing profit, rather he want to increase the profit by any means. Similarly, when this goal is communicated at the individual level, each and every employee may interpret it as, don't worry about the quality, just work fast. This means at the individual level, the organizational goal loses quality standards as well. Here, employee is just focusing on fast working. That may be possible that in the organization there is a piece rate pay system. That means that an organization pay to each and every employee on the basis of unit that an employee produces. So we can see that overall performance of the organization, which was decided by the top management, when communicated to the individual level, loses all the ethical and quality standards, and it just focuses on the number of units it can produce. So we can say that traditional goal setting is the process in which the organization's top management communicate the goals that they have decided lower down in the hierarchy. But in the same process of communicating these goals lower down the hierarchy, it may loses all the ethical and quality standards, because the goals are communicated in the hierarchy by different people which have their own way of interpreting the goals that they receive from their top managers. Okay, now in order to counter the problems, or in order to address the problems that the organization face in traditional approach towards management, that is top down approach, in which the organization decide the objectives at the top and then communicate it to the employees lower down the hierarchy, contemporary organization adopt another approach which is called as management by objectives. Now this process, or you can say this term, was first coined by Peter Drucker. It is defined as a process of defining specific goals within the organization that management can convey to the organization members, then deciding how to achieve each in a specific sequence. This process allows managers to take work that they need to be done one step at a time to allow for a calm yet productive work environment. Such kind of processes help the organization members to see their accomplishment as they achieve each objective, which reinforces a positive environment and a sense of achievement. Basically, in this process, specific goal performance are jointly determined by the employees and their managers, and the progress towards accomplishment of these goals are periodically reviewed. That means we can review the performance of the employees with a specific time period. Rewards are allocated on the basis of progress. That means the better you perform, the more reward you can get. This MBO process consists of 4 elements. Number 1 is goal specificity. That means that goals should be specific in nature. What are specific goals? We discussed it in our previous lecture. Second element is participative decision making. This participative decision making gives employee a sense of ownership. When the organization decides its goals at the top of the organization and communicate it to the employees lower down the hierarchy, the employees mostly resist any kind of decision or change. That is just because of human psychology, that a human will always resist a change in which his or her input is not involved. So that's why a participative decision making help in reducing this human resistance or employee resistance to any kind of change or goal setting. And there should be an explicit time period. That means a specific time period should be given for goal achievement. That means that we cannot let an employee to achieve its goal within infinite period of time. Last and the most important is, as I mentioned earlier, performance feedback. Feedback should be given to the employees on the basis of the performance that they perform. That means that whatever is the performance, we should provide the feedback. If the performance is good, a positive feedback will reinforce the employee performance. And if the performance needs improvement, any kind of area of improvement that we communicate to the employee will help the employee in increasing his or her performance. Okay, there are certain steps that a typical MBO program involve. Number 1 is the organization's overall objectives and strategies are formulated. That means before starting the MBO, we should set the organization's overall objectives. Second is major objectives are communicated and allocated among divisional and departmental units. Third, unit managers collaboratively set specific objectives for their units with their superiors or supervisors. Specific objectives are collaboratively set for all department members. Next step is action plans defining how objectives are to be achieved are specified and agreed upon by the managers and subordinates. That means we should also take input from our subordinates. Number 6, the action plans are implemented. Number 7, progress towards objectives is periodically reviewed and feedback is provided. This process or this step is very important, because until unless we cannot periodically review the performance or progress, we cannot give the feedback. So feedback is very important in order to improve the performance of the employees. And the last step is successful achievement of the objectives is reinforced by performance based rewards. Now this performance based reward is also very important, because whoever perform well, when they are rewarded, they will be motivated, number one, and also this performance based reward will also give a message to all those who are not performing well, that if they perform well, they will also get such kind of rewards. Okay, this management by objectives or MBO, it helps in increasing the employee performance and productivity, because we in this type of process we give performance based reward. So the more productive employees are rewarded well. It depends upon the top management support. Yes, this is also very important. Unless and until there is a lack of top management support in MBO process, we cannot fully implement this process. But there are certain problems with MBO as well, like it can be useless in times of dynamic change. When the environment is dynamic, when there is uncertainty in the environment, we cannot properly implement management by objectives, because the goals that we set are for a specific period of time, and when during that specific period of time the environment changes, the organization priorities change with the changing environment. So we cannot say that we can continue with the same goals in the changed environment. There is an overemphasis on personal rather than organizational goals. So why there is an overemphasis on personal rather than organizational goals? Because as we earlier said, that the performance based reward system is implemented. When the employees are rewarded on their personal performance, they will always look for their own performance. That may result in trade-off situation where the organizational goals and personal goals come in conflict with one another. So an employee has to choose one. For example, the organization focuses on the quality product, and at the same time the organization gives an employee piece rate pay system. So that means the more units you produce, the more compensation you will get. So the employees in such kind of situation will compromise the quality and will select the number of units, because the more units are produced, the more he or she will be rewarded. So we can say that there is an overemphasis on personal goals rather than organizational goals. It may be viewed as simply an annual exercise in paperwork. Some of the organization establish these kind of goals, but only on papers. When it comes to practical steps, some of the organization fails to do so because of many reasons, the most important of which is lack of top management support. Okay, there are certain characteristics of well designed goals. These goals should be written down in terms of outcomes. This is one of the characteristics. These goals should be measurable and quantifiable. That means we should set such kind of goals that can be measured. For example, if we set a goal of increase in quality of the products, there is no specific scale by which we can measure the increase in quality of the products. But on the other hand, if we set a goal of 20% increase in sales as compared to previous year, this can be measured easily. So the goals should be such which can be measured or which are quantifiable. The goal should also be clear in terms of time frame. That means that we should set the goal with a specific time frame. Again, if we set an objective or goal of increase in sales by 20%, but we do not specify any time period, it will not be a well designed goal. So increase in sales by 20% in 2020 gives us a specific time frame that this goal should be achieved in 2020. So we can say that now this goal is a well designed goal. Okay, furthermore, such kind of goal should be challenging but attainable. That means the goal should not be too difficult, nor it should be too much easy. Similarly, the goal should be written down. That means the goal should not be verbal, should be communicated to all the organization members who need to know about the goals, because sometimes the employees even don't know what are the goals of their organization in which they are working. So in such a situation, the employee's productivity decreases manifolds. Okay, now we will discuss about the steps in goal setting. Number 1, review the organization's mission. Why it is important? Because our goal should not be contradictory to the organization's mission. For example, the mission of a hospital is to provide the health services, but in goals, if it is written down that the hospital revenue should be increased by 50%, that means that the goal of the organization is not in accordance with the mission of the hospital. Step number 2, evaluate available resources. That means our goal should be such that they can be achievable within a resources that are available. Determine the goals individually or with input from others. So there should be a congruence with the organizational mission and goals in other organizational areas. Number 4, write down the goals and communicate it to all who need to know them. That means that there should be a proper communication process. Number last, 5th, review results and whether the goals are met or not. So we should also see whether we have achieved our goals or not. Okay, now we will discuss something related to developing plans. Mostly plans or planning is done at the top of the organization by top manager, because it is believed that they have a complete insight of the organization and its situation. That's why we say that most of the time the top management is involved in planning process. In some organization there is a formal planning department where there are specialists whose sole responsibility is to help the organization in planning process. Plans float down to the lower levels. That means once the plans are developed, they are communicated to the lower level of the organizations. So although planning is considered to be an important part of the organization, some of the people or scholars can criticize it. Like, there are certain criticism on planning process. For example, some people believe that it may create rigidity. That means there is no flexibility once a planning is done in the organization. Plans can't be developed for a dynamic environment. That means we can only develop plan when the environment is stable. With the changes in the environment, we cannot change the plans. Formal plans can't replace intuition and creativity. That means the role of intuition and creativity diminishes when there is a formal planning process, because it cannot replace the creative abilities of the employees. Another criticism on planning is that planning focuses managers' attention on today's competition, and they cannot focus on tomorrow's survival. That means due to planning, the managers are concentrated on existing business opportunities. Like they always try to capitalize the opportunity that is present today, and it hinders managers who consider creating or reinventing the industry. That's why we say that the creativity, or you can say the hunch feeling, is diminishes when there is a planning process. Formal planning reinforces success, which may lead to failure. Success may breed failure in an uncertain environment. That means that when the environment is dynamic, even a good successful venture can lead to failure.